It's the ASA's 100th anniversary celebration and historical marker dedication. Brought to you by these platinum sponsors. These gold sponsors. These silver sponsors. These bronze sponsors. And our soy friends. This is a Walton Webcasting production.
Good morning. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Kendall Culp. I'm a farmer from Rensselaer, Indiana, about 2 counties to the northwest of here. I'm also on the American Soybean Board of Directors, and I'm a member of the ASA 100th Anniversary Planning Committee. Welcome to this year's event, today's event here at the Fouts Soyland Farm. We're grateful that all of you could join us for this historic celebration that we have today. You know, the Centennial Committee with ASA was formed about 2 years ago. And there's been a lot of planning take place, obviously, to get to the events that we're having this year. This is just one of multiple events that have been planned. But I can remember in that beginning stage a couple years ago when the committee sat down in St. Louis and we were discussing all the possibilities and we were brainstorming different thoughts of what we could do. And it kept coming up about Camden, Indiana. The birthplace of the American Soybean Association happened right here in Camden, Indiana. And one of our ASA directors from another state was taking all of this in. And he finally spoke up and he said, this could be a big event the way you're talking. He said, if we have all of the ASA directors and you have Indiana directors, he said, are there enough motel rooms available in Camden, Indiana to host all of us? Well, probably not. But as you could imagine, 100 years ago today, the excitement that was happening right here in Carroll County with this first soy symposium, soy field day, the first one of its kind in the Midwest, in the Corn Belt, and they tried to determine where would be a good place to hold that, and they determined that right here, with all the work the Fouts brothers were doing on their farm and soybean research for different varieties and uses for soybeans, that this would be a logical place. So brothers Taylor, Noah, and Finus all worked together and hosted this on this farm. So what we know of today of the American Soybean Association was founded right here on September 3rd, 1920, on this very farm in this very place. That's really remarkable today that this farm is still in the Fouts family, as the farm is across the road, as the other brother's farm is about 3 miles down the road. At the conclusion of that day, back 100 years ago, a photograph was taken. The old home was right over here by this current home, and in front of that, the nearly 1,000 attendees from that day lined up in front and had a picture taken. And you can see that picture is on display in here. And that same photograph proudly hangs in the American Association's office today in St. Louis, depicting the origination and the historic beginning of the Soybean Association. Because this is such a great historic event of significance, the Indiana Historic Marker is being dedicated here today. One side of that marker will recognize the birth, this being the birthplace of the American Soybean Association. The other side of the marker will recognize the Fouts family and all the contributions they made to the promotion of soybeans here in Indiana. So on behalf of the American Soybean Association, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Fouts family for graciously hosting all of us here today on their farm. Actually, there are about 37 Fouts family members with us today, and you will notice they have a large button that says Fouts family on their shirt. So I would encourage all of you, if you see them, thank them for hosting us and allowing us to invade their space on their farm today and to come back 100 years later, and for being great hosts. It's my The family from all three brothers are represented here today. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome to the microphone the great-granddaughter of Noah Fouts, Alicia Modisette Kemp, to make a few remarks on behalf of the family. Alicia?
Thanks, Kendall. It's been a pleasure working with you and the ASA and ISA staff getting ready for today's event. So welcome everyone to Soyland Farms. I'm Alicia Modisette Kemp, and I am the great-great-granddaughter of Noah Fouts, who along with his brothers, Taylor and Finus, were here first gathering of the soybean growers 100 years ago. Our family is so honored and excited to share in this historic occasion. I come from a long line of farmers and agricultural enthusiasts that have worked diligently to preserve the past, and along with the efforts of ASA and Indiana Soybean Alliance here to commemorate this anniversary is a moment that our family will truly treasure for a long time. We're pleased here to have so many leaders from ASA, from Washington, D.C., and the Indiana State House. Thank you for making the trip today to be with us. When the association was created here a century ago, I've often wondered if Taylor and his brothers knew the significance of their work that day. And some days, based on all their efforts leading up to that day, I think they did. In 1896, Solomon Fouts, which was the father of Noah, Finis, and Taylor, was first planting soybeans here for seeds given to him by USDA. Then all three sons attended Purdue University, and when they came back, they each were given 160 acres. I heard a Purdue cheer there. They were each given 160 acres to farm on their own. Their fascination of soybeans quickly increased, mostly due to its inherent qualities as forage for their livestock and also nitrogen for their corn. At first, the neighbors thought it was crazy to see whole acres dedicated to soybeans, and they laughed at Taylor for his, quote, high-toned college ideas. But that laughter quickly turned to intrigue when they saw how the corn grown with the beans were, quote, tall, green, and thrifty looking. And across the road, the corn without the soys were not nearly so tall. It was somewhat fired and sickly yellow. The Fouts' hogs were also gaining about 2 pounds a day. Farmers from neighboring states were now stopping by the farm to see the fields. And the brothers welcomed the visits, except on Sundays, and finally decided to coordinate with other growers to hold a field day. Over 1,000 farmers came here to Deer Creek on that day, and even now, we have soybeans growing on this farm. 100 years later, I have the privilege of working for Corteva Agriscience, and it's one of the largest seed companies in the world. And every time I see a soybean field or attend an association meeting, I have a smile inside knowing that my great-great-grandfather and his brothers were a key part in the work that I get to do today. We're so grateful to ASA and ISA for including our family in commemorating this historic occasion. Along with the family farm machinery that resides at the Smithsonian, this anniversary is a wonderful tribute for our family that we will cherish for generations to come. Thank you all for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Alicia. One of the goals of the committee was to have an historical marker dedicated here on site so we would have a permanent remembrance of the birthplace of ASA. Thanks so much to the Indiana Soybean Alliance who worked with the Fouts family, and thank you to the Fouts family for going through the application process and making this a reality. The Historical Marker Program is part of the Indiana Historical Bureau, which is a division of the Indiana State Library. Representing them today is the director of the Historical Marker Program, Casey Pfeiffer. Casey, would you like to make a few comments?
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Indiana Historical Bureau and the Indiana State Library, I want to thank you all for having me here today to help with the unveiling and dedication of our newest state historical marker commemorating the Fouts, the establishment of the American Soybean Association, and the growth of the soybean industry as a result of the two. It's our pleasure to be here with you all today. As you can imagine, we've seen many of our historical marker dedications postponed this year, and while we look forward with anticipation to all those that will dedicate next year, it's wonderful to be able to unveil this new marker today as part of the centennial celebration of the ASA. IHB has collaborated with communities and organizations across the state on the dedication of new historical markers for almost 75 years. Since that time, we've installed over 675 throughout Indiana, and we continue to work with the public to add to this number every year to making sure we're marking the rich and diverse history of our state. Historical markers have dotted the American landscape for decades. You can find them on state and city right-of-ways, in public parks, near businesses and private residences. These signs are storytellers, conversation starters, and educational pieces in communities. They remind us of our past, inform our present, and inspire us to work towards a better future as they teach us about the people, places, events, and organizations that have shaped this state and nation. The topics and stories covered are diverse. If you travel across Indiana, you will find official state markers examining pioneering agricultural settlements, breakthroughs in science, medicine, and technology, suffragists and civil rights leaders, and athletes, politicians, and artists, among so many others. These markers return stories to the historical landscapes in which they belong, and that's certainly the case today. Today's new marker for the Fouts Soyland Farm and the ASA is the 5th state historical marker to be installed in Carroll County. And like all those that preceded it, it wouldn't have been possible without the collaborative efforts of so many people. The marker program is a public-driven program, and last year was very unique for us, and that was the first time we received 2 marker applications to commemorate the same topic in the same marker cycle. The first was submitted by Carroll County historian and County Historical Society member Mark Smith, and the second by Chris Weldon of the Indiana Soybean Alliance, working in conjunction with the ASA. The two applications highlighted the lasting contributions of the Fouts family and the growth of the American Soybean Association. These topics shed further light on Indiana's rich agricultural history that we're proud to mark today. Now, the Fouts were not the first to begin experimenting with soybeans in the state, as several others had been doing so for years before. But through their continued experimentation and education, they were instrumental in helping to lay the foundation for the state and nation's modern soybean industry, an industry that has since seen soybeans grow to become the second largest crop in the country. I want to thank the Indiana Soybean Alliance, Mark and Carroll County Historical Society, and of course the American Soybean Association and Fouts families for all of their work bringing together today's program. I'd also like to thank all those in attendance for taking the time to be here. Your presence is a further testament to the importance of this history and its continued impact on society today. If you're interested in learning more about this marker or any marker across the state of Indiana, I encourage you to visit the Indiana Historical Bureau's website, where you can find a lot more information beyond what we can fit on the confines of the marker text. 100 years ago, over 1,000 farmers gathered here in Carroll County, Indiana, and made their mark on history when they established what would become the American Soybean Association. Today, we make our own mark as we commemorate their efforts, look to build upon their legacy, and seek to share their story with others for generations to come. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Casey. The Fouts family has a rich history and tradition, not only here in Carroll County, but all across Indiana. As Casey alluded to, Mark Smith is a local historian, and with the Carroll County Historical Association. Mark, if you want to come on up, he has written a poem to commemorate today. Mark?
It's my immense pleasure to do this for a wonderful family and who've contributed greatly to local, state, and national causes in agriculture. I've entitled this, appropriately enough, Soybean Association Conference 2020. And I really wish Captain Stubby were here to accompany it. Many of you know him, but anyway, he isn't. Get on with it. They came to North Carolina seeking neither wealth nor fame, full of faith and freedom. Fouts was their name. Some were entertainers to lighten others' loads. Others grew good soybeans along the Michigan Road. Solomon Noah Taylors and Francis pioneering put beans in every pod, as they reared their families and also served their God. We are gathered here to honor the work which they have done toward the cause of agriculture and feeding everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. You know, as you can imagine, it takes several individuals to serve in leadership capacities to serve an organization like this for a century. And a lot of progress has been made because of the leadership of those individuals over the years. In the 100-year existence of the American Soybean Association, 80 different men have served as the president of that association. Several of those past presidents are here with us today in the audience, but we also have the current president, the 2020 president of the American Soybean Association, Minnesota soybean farmer Bill Gordon, with us. Bill?
Well, thank you, everyone, and it's awesome to be here in Indiana. I was teasing my Indiana directors that it's not Minnesota, but it's really close. It looks a lot the same. No, it's and the Fouts, thank you so much. So 100 years. It's really hard to believe that we've been in existence for 100 years, and 3 brothers and their families decided to take a step, a leap of faith, a what if of what could be for an association and a plant and a crop that would feed the world. So 100 years, the American Soybean Association has been the voice and been there as an advocacy and a policy organization representing the American soybean farmer. No matter the means or the topic, the advocacy or the policy, the initiatives, international trade, domestic markets, biofuels, bioindustrial products, high oleic soybean oil, you name it, the American Soybean Association and the American Soybean Farmer has done it. But none of that would have been able to happen without the Fouts family and other visionaries, and some of them were within this room. We had a great video, and I think we're going to see a little bit later, of different leaders and presidents and association directors throughout the years. Currently, we have about 56 directors sitting on our board of directors. It's gone up and down from there, but if you think about the men and women that have served the American soybean farmer and what their contributions are, and they go home unnamed and back to their farms and families, you all are part of that visionary group, and we really, really appreciate it. So what if ASA had not existed? Where would be the quality and the grading standards, the Grain Standards Act? What would that look like? Vast array of soy products that I mentioned earlier on the market today. What would be here? What wouldn't be? How would the Farm Bill or key policy, we'll hear later from Mr. Stensky, and what he's been instrumental for many years in helping that. Now he's involved directly, but what would the Farm Bill look like? What would our food part of the Farm Bill that we help so many and feed so many people in school districts look like without the soybean and the impact of the Soybean Association? What would sustainability look like? If you walk out in that field, you look at all of that conservation effort in Indiana and across the country, what would our environment look like without the American soybean farmer? And what if in the 1960s we hadn't decided to make state associations like the Indiana Soybean Alliance or Illinois or Minnesota or South Dakota? We wouldn't be where we are today. And let's not forget our checkoff. How important our national checkoff is to the American soybean farmer, but really the American consumer in general, and how important it is that we stand together today as the Fouts and our other visionaries stood together before. And the greatest and what's in the news the most lately is trade. Imagine what this soybeans would be if we only could feed domestically. We didn't enrich lives around the world. We didn't have Wish to go out and teach people how to feed themselves. USEC, Jim Sutter's here from USEC, and many of you have served in the USEC capacity. The exports that we do around the world, how that impacts all the world economy. We are the shining star, and we're talking about it with China now, with all the politics back and forth. The one thing they say is still steady and it's been strong since the 80s is soybeans and the trade with China. So many questions, such significant impacts that we've had. And we're fortunate, however, that we did not linger long on the what ifs. What if the Fouts had said, no, it's not worth it, this crop isn't good enough, right? But they didn't. They stepped up and they said, what if we get together? What if we create a group of farmers that can lead this country and lead agriculture to the next generation? So my challenge to you and to the next leaders sitting in the audience, to the leaders that are at home, is let's look at what if. What if we join together? What if we get with the other agriculture groups and the soybean groups and we lead this country and this society out of this craziness in 2020 and feed them and provide security? What if we make those hard choices? What if trade, and we equalize trade and modernize trade, and we have trade deals where we don't have to have tariffs and impacts on society? What if we have truth? What if we have information that people can trust when they go to the media? That's what I challenge each and every one of you. And I thank you, and I thank the Fouts for an amazing event and look forward to the things to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill, for those words. Now, it's really a pleasure of mine to be able to introduce the next speaker that we have here today. Congressman Jim Baird represents 17 counties in north central and northwest Indiana. In his first term, he's doing an outstanding job representing agriculture as he serves on the House Agriculture Committee in Congress in Washington. He's a man rich in service. He served his country and earned a Bronze Star and 2 Purple Hearts in Vietnam. He would later enter public life once he came back home, as he ran for the very noble position, Congressman, of County Commissioner in Putnam County. He continued his public service and decided to serve the state of Indiana and was elected to the Indiana General Assembly in its House of Representatives. Now he has returned to serve his country, and last election was elected to his first term in Congress, representing all Hoosiers. I'm proud to introduce my congressman and our advocate for agriculture, Congressman Jim Baird.
Thanks, Kendall. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. Probably the best thing I could do is just keep my mouth shut after that introduction. It could go downhill from here. But anyway, I really do appreciate the Fouts family and the service that you have given agriculture. It really is a pleasure I hope you'll take the time and the American Soybean Association, but I hope you'll take the time to here we are. I can't think of a better place I'd rather be than standing right here with soybeans around us, corn across the road. Quincy Cunningham, my chief of staff, and I came up from the south this morning, and to see those kind of crops and yields, you got to really appreciate that we are in the breadbasket of the world. And I mean that. That top 8 inches of soil out there is alive. You have been the stewards and managed that soil in order for us to be the productive kind of industry that we are. There are people around the world starving, and so Bill, you mentioned being able to do what we need to do in terms of trying to feed the world. And so I think that's important, and the contributions that have been made, Purdue University has made, and the Fouts family to improving agriculture for us is extremely important. And you know, it's really fun to be, this is therapeutic for me, Kendall. I can look at you folks and kind of read your faces and know a little bit about what I think you might be thinking. But this place in Washington, I'm not sure I understand those folks yet, and I'm working very hard at trying to be very cooperative. But you know, being in a minority, it makes it a little difficult. And then I sat here and look at my good colleague, Don Leahy. We used to sit there in the back of the chamber and discuss things that I thought were important. But having said all that, and I'll just tell you I'll leave you with this parting choice. I really hope that you appreciate, and what a nice day to have this kind of event. And I am so thrilled to be here and be a part of agriculture. And the second thing I'll just say to you, because I think it's important, and I think you need, Steve, I see you standing back there too. So anyway, Steve, anyway, I think it's important that you really get down and think for yourself what's going on in this country right now. And I want to make sure that you make every effort to get your friends and all out. I don't want to make this political, but I'm only saying it because I care. I love this country. And I think it's important that we go ahead and do what we've been able to do in agriculture, make sure we do it for this country. And I'll leave you with this parting thought. As long as they're talking about socialism in the General Assembly, in the U.S. House, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to stand up to say that's not going to happen. So I'm really having a great time. Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Congressman. We appreciate your leadership in Washington and here in Indiana as well. As I mentioned earlier, at this event 100 years ago, Taylor Fouts from right here in Indiana was elected as the first president of the American Soybean Association. In the 100 years we celebrate, a total of 6 individuals have been served as president of that association from Indiana. The most recent served in 2011, and he's with us today. Alan Kemper from Tippecanoe County is our most recent past Indiana president of the American Soybean Association. He's going to give us a few words. Alan?
one thing Kendall knows, I can't do it in a few words. So today I'm having coffee at my favorite restaurant. And first of all, welcome, Deputy Secretary. It's always good to see my friend. Never seen you with a mask before, but that's maybe fitting. Congressman Baird, appreciate it, man. You're my congressman. You got us veterans and farmers covered, and we appreciate that. And I don't see the governor yet, but I do welcome him. But I'm sitting there drinking my coffee, and Jill, it's going to take more than 2 minutes. It's going to take 3 or 4. They only gave me 2 minutes. Anyway, but I had to read, and we get it in Tippecanoe County, the Carroll County Comet. And what they do is really good. 1839, I think they were started. Our farm was created and established in 1888. I can't tell, but I think one of my grandparents might have been in the photo at the workshop here on this farm. So the Fouts family farm, I very much appreciate it. I want to talk real quickly about 3 M's: mentors, memories, and markets. And Bill Gordon, you took about half of my speech, President Gordon. But I'm going to hit just a few highlights. 1990, ASA's at the front of the policy table in Washington, D.C. Doing what? Creating the 1990 Farm Bill. And Steve Sinskey was involved very much during that era with one side or the other of either Congress or the administration or ASA. But Marlon Jorgensen, a farmer from a mentor of mine, past president from Iowa, was the president that helped implement the 1990 Farm Bill, which created the 1991 Soybean Promotion Act and United Soybean Board. My point on all this is, just like Agriculture Day, it takes a team. And ASA, with others, made a team. Fast forward 2002, World Initiative on Soy and Human Health. Tony Anderson, past president from Ohio, led the charge with that. And as Bill said, it's well known around the world to help nutrition and promote U.S. soybeans. We're not only known for policy, but we're known for others. Neil Bredehoff, another past president, mentor of mine from Missouri, helped create USEC, the U.S. Soybean Export Council, October 1st, 2005. And that very much created the teamwork for more international marketing. It showed the family of soy was working together. USEC, USB, ASA. ASA kind of being the parent, Deputy Secretary, of those, but it was good. With all that said, then where's Jim Sauer? Where's Jim? Jim, stand up for a second. Jim Sauer, USEC, United States Soybean Export Cooperative Council. You can sit. But anyway, I never got to say that before. Anyway, that was interesting. Anyway, created with about the time I came along, 2009, 2010, the U.S. Soybean Sustainable Assurance Protocol. And if there was any doubt in the world that our soybeans weren't being raised correctly, this helped change the world's image of U.S. soybeans. So with that said, I'd just like to say those are some of my mentors, memories. Okay, markets. Where'd Bill go? Bill's already out doing the interview. I want to just tell Bill Gordon he's got to do better. Beans are down 8 today. I came here, I think when I was president, we were in the 12s. Hello. Bill Gordon, wherever you are, you got homework. Anyway, came along with the help of USEC and others, all the free trade agreements that ASA has been involved in, from Canada to Mexico to Panama to Colombia to all the others around the world. ASA has also been involved, of course, with getting China into the WTO in 2002, and Deputy Secretary will maybe speak on that later. It's just a privilege for me to be standing here and thanking the Fouts family and ASA for allowing me to be a small part in it. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Well, thank you, Alan. You know, when the committee got together and we decided we wanted to have an historical marker and we needed to have a dedicated...
Governor.
Okay. We needed it dedicated properly. We decided we wanted to invite the governor of Indiana to come and help us dedicate this historical marker today. We're certainly pleased that he is here with us today to help us with this ceremony. You know, and where would we be today in this country without soybeans? Governor Holcomb understands the value of soybeans and the value of all agricultural commodities and what it means for our economy here in Indiana. His resume is extensive, and I'm not going to go through all that, but one thing that you find, sometimes you have to look deep within a person to see their character. And in the past few months, to me, Governor, you have redefined my definition of integrity. My definition of integrity has always been to do the right thing when nobody's watching. Well, he has, because of his leadership in Indiana and what we're all living through right now, I have redefined the word integrity, Governor, because of your actions. To me, it's doing the right thing when everybody's watching. Everybody's watching with an opinion. And sometimes the right thing to do is not the popular thing to do. And it's really refreshing to me to know that we have a leader who is more concerned about the public than the polls. And I thank you for that leadership. Let's join me in welcoming Indiana's Governor Eric Holcomb.
We got to stay on schedule here. We've been waiting a few years for this, after all. Well, thank you, Kendall, and good to see you, Alan, and Deputy Secretary Sinsky, and I understand our good Congressman Jim Baird is in the room somewhere. Well, yes, sir. Represents us so well in our nation's capital and happens to sit on the Ag Committee. Appreciate that. And all your guidance, Jim. Good to see Randy. Good to see so many friends here. Bill and David and Courtney. Thank you. I saw you when I came in. Thanks for your leadership, Courtney, from one Hanoverian to another. It is just so good to be with you all here as we gather here on the farm. To celebrate this century of growth. And if you're visiting, as I met with a few on the way in, if you're visiting from outstate, welcome to the heart of the heartland, where 6.7 million Hoosiers are rolling out the hospitality to you. That's 2.5 or close to 3 million more Hoosiers here today than there were 100 years ago. But we're beaming with pride today. I should probably say welcome back to most of you because your travels bring you here for different reasons on occasion. And it's altogether obviously appropriate that we're meeting on this exact soil 100 years later to mark this major milestone of accomplishment. So much innovation has occurred here. So many firsts have occurred here. So much rich history on Soyland's original plot. Carroll County's first soybeans were obviously growing here. The now legendary Fouts family perfected the seed here, sold it here. A revolutionary soybean harvester was invented here. And finally, the ASA, the American Soybean Association, sprang to life here during that now famous conference 100 years ago. You might recall it because that was during the Woodrow Wilson administration. Governor Goodrich was actually here. So not only did I want to be here, I wasn't going to miss it. If Goodrich could be here, I could be here as well. But just think about everything that has, how far we've come from this patch. So many, tractors and combines and seed like the Fouts brothers sold were new to the scene at that time. And although Obviously, combines have made what we do here more efficient, harvesting, etc. What hasn't changed since 1920 is that resilience and that eternal optimism that are really enduring traits. Really, they are both timely in the day we find ourselves in, and they are timeless traits. And they've led to some good stories. As I was doing some of my research in preparation for today, I came across a number of stories. I won't filibuster, but I'll share one of those that probably my favorite. I think some of us can relate to this. It was Taylor. I'm assuming, Courtney, we talked about this earlier. I'm assuming Taylor was the oldest of the three. Youngest. Noah was the oldest, Phineas, and then Taylor.
Noah was 16 years old, and
Six.
and Phineas was 14.
Okay, so Taylor drew the short straw when he was elected to head the organization. Okay, I'm the youngest too. I can relate. So you rewind the tape and you think about Taylor, by the way, a Purdue graduate in 1902. That's, if you're keeping score at home, that's during the Teddy Roosevelt administration. Boiler up then, boiler up now. But he was, I'll say it this way, he was lucky enough to be married in Carroll County. And I say that, I'm going to quote him specifically. I say that because his fiance actually went through with a marriage. Taylor reflected on that day and said, quote, "We finally set October 24th for our wedding date, but I didn't finish threshing the soybeans until noon that day. So we delayed and we were married at 3 p.m. And then we were off to our long-planned honeymoon." I mean, just delay the wedding, you know, on that day. Need just a few minutes to clean up for the big day. But that's, I mean, I say we could probably all relate just because that's just a day on the farm. I mean, a lot's not changed. A lot has, but a lot's not. That work ethic, that head down, getting it done attitude that still prevails today right here. And clearly it worked out because we're here generations later, and so much good has come from it. And to be celebrating this centennial of this organization that the Fouts brothers launched is just remarkable. And we couldn't be more proud that those seeds that were first planted here in Camden in 1920 have really grown into this premier ag industry, 300,000 strong, representing more than 30 states around our country. And we couldn't be more proud that Indiana's home to 22,000 soybean farms and 200,000 ag-related jobs. So we too have just grown along the way with this industry. And you're all, as I look around, you're all part of this, not just continuity, but momentum. It's now, a $31 billion contribution toward our state's economy, and it ranks us in the top 4 for soybean production and top 8 in exports for what we do right here in the state of Indiana. And so, while so much has changed, when you fast forward to today and you start to evaluate Indiana's ag bioscience sector, you get really optimistic again about what's to come from it, because we know soy feeds our livestock and it provides food for us and for our families. It's formed, bio-friendly plastics, and it fuels our vehicles and so much more, and will be in the future. And so 100 years ago, Soyland was positioned for success because of that head down, get it done, pioneering, innovative, leaning into it spirit, that Hoosier spirit, if you will. And as modern technology was ushering its way in to these parts, daily rail lines and phone service, and the radio was bringing families closer to the world than ever before. And that's why we're going to continue to build on this legacy, and we're going to continue to lean into it as a people and as a state today. I guess you could say that's why we're investing in internet broadband service into those unserved and underserved areas, bridging that digital divide in much of rural Indiana. It's just critically important that we continue to honor that heritage and build upon their foundation that they set. And so we will. Bruce Kettler, I know, is out here running around somewhere, but hey, Bruce, morning, still is morning, I guess. We'll continue to work with all the relative and relevant groups that make this all happen. And when I say that, I'm talking about the Indiana State Department of Agriculture working with ISA and ASA and Agrinovus and Corteva, and just a long list that goes on and on and on and on. We're going to be working on your shared mission, developing new ways to take our products to the market and doing it more sustainably than we've ever done it before via crop rotation and conservation tillage and precision farming and the like. And we'll be creating more value through new products. One thing that Courtney and I discussed already is this, for just one example, and there are many, but this new soy-based concrete treatment developed for roads and bridges. I love it. I want to see more. I want to see and feel more of it as I'm making my way up to Carroll County on occasion. And we're going to continue to collaborate with groups to draw in more talent and grow those pipelines right here at home. And so working hand in glove with you all, cultivating this climate that yields that stability, that yields that certainty and predictability in this time, as Kendall said, at a time like this, which is, it's just become even that much more of a premium. And yeah, we've had some challenges thrown our way this year, but again, that if I've learned one thing, if there is an essential American, it is the American farmer that has seen us through this and will see us through to the other side. And that's why it's just entirely appropriate, again, that we are here, that we are this historical marker that we will unveil. It could not be more deserved, and it could not be more timely for our Hoosier psyche, even the American psyche, to know that we're continuing to pioneer our way, to know that we're going to continue to not just respect, but pay tribute to our heritage, and to cultivate that present that we find ourselves in, and then to create that future. So as we do all three of those things, as we honor and as we cultivate and as we create, I just want to say thank you to the entire Indiana farmer, to the entire American ag community, for that steady, grounded, connected to your community leadership. This is what will set us apart and what will keep our nation going and growing. So with that, we've got the great unveil, what we've all been waiting for. Drum roll, please.
Okay, let me get rid of this. We have much more to come today. We have lunch and then a special program continue the 100th celebration will be after lunch. We have the Walton webcasting is broadcasting this live today. So to meet Indiana's guidelines of 250, we had to cut that off there, and the rest are watching live. So we're almost ready for lunch, but to have some orderly social distancing, we will be released by the staff members from Indiana in the yellow shirts, but there will be boxed lunches for you to pick up and bring back to eat. But first, I would like to ask Pastor Henry Rozelle of the Deer Creek Presbyterian Church to come to the podium and offer an invocation. Pastor?
At this time of celebration, let us give thanks to God. Let us pray. Gracious Almighty God, we gather here today to celebrate the vision of those who have come before us. We have been blessed as a community by the wisdom, courage, and faith of previous generations who founded an important farm group, as we've just heard, the American Soybean Alliance. We honor the memory this morning of Taylor, Noah, and Finest Fouts, who formed that alliance and brought that important crop to our county, to our state, and to our country. In 1842, the Fouts family opened their home, a log cabin, to the members of the community of faith that would have eventually become Deer Creek Presbyterian Church, which continues to worship today just north of this historical site. Loving and gracious God, on this beautiful summer day, we praise you for your love that you have. As we look around at the abundance in the fields, we're reminded of your word, that you created the heaven and earth, and indeed pronounced it good. We look at these fields, these farms, and we know that we're blessed. And for that, we give you prayers of thanksgiving. Gracious God, grant us the same vision, the same faith, and the same confidence that Taylor, Noah, and Finest had for the future. And as we look back today and celebrate this anniversary, help us to look forward to the future with confidence and assurance and optimism of your love and blessing. This we ask in your holy name. Amen.
I'm Charles Atkinson, soybean farmer from Great Bend, Kansas. Congratulations, ASA, on 100 years of being the advocate for the U.S. soybean farmer. And thank you to all of our past, present, and future farmer leaders.
I'm Kendall Culp, a soybean farmer from Rensselaer, Indiana. The American Soybean Association was formed in my home state of Indiana 100 years ago. Congratulations to ASA on a century of service to advocate for American soybean farmers.
Hello, I'm Fred Sipes, bringing you greetings from Meade County, Kentucky. Helping to celebrate ASA's 100th anniversary during the Kentucky Soybean Association's 50th anniversary has made my year as KSA president very exciting. I remember back when I was first on KSA's leadership team and we traveled to Hill for the visits, visiting our senators and congressmen. It was and still is so satisfying to see the relationships we have built with our lawmakers over the years. When soybean farmers go to Washington, D.C., their voices are heard. As a soybean farmer, I appreciate all the efforts ASA has made over the past 100 years making these relationships in D.C. Happy anniversary to the American Soybean Association from all your Kentucky farmers.
The Kentucky Soybean Board is proud to help sponsor ASA's 100th anniversary celebration. I'm Ryan Bivens, chairman of the Kentucky Soybean Board, and I realize that this celebration is like pretty much everything else this year. It doesn't look anything like what we had planned. Making the best of the situation, I think we should note that the 100th anniversary falling during a global pandemic is a pretty ironic representation of agriculture because farmers are the most adaptable and resilient people I know. We have good years and we have bad years, and farming is a little bit of a roller coaster ride. While we're celebrating differently, we are celebrating. Congratulations to the farmer leaders and members, past and present, who have worked so hard to make the American Soybean Association such a well-respected organization, both in the world of agriculture and in Washington, D.C. Congratulations.
I'm James Lee Adams. I'm a soybean farmer from Camilla, Georgia, and I want to congratulate ASA for what they've done for the soybean industry and for the soybean farmer in the last 100 years. We've come a long way, baby, and they've got a long way to go, and we got to keep pushing at it.
Hi, I'm Mary Kay Thatcher, head of Syngenta's Federal Government and Industry Relations Division. I'm also an Iowa corn and soybean farmer and a proud member of the Iowa Soybean Association. So it's a big honor for me today to represent Syngenta in congratulating ASA on a true milestone, 100 years of service to soybean farmers across the country. You know, when you think about today, I'm sure it's not the celebration that you'd planned for or hoped for, but it is a good indication anyway of the resilience and the ability of the American Soybean Association to adapt. When I think about the ability to adapt, I think of a quote made famous by Elizabeth Edwards, the wife of Senator John Edwards, who was the Democratic VP nominee with John Kerry. Elizabeth was nothing if not adaptable, and she made famous the saying, "She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails." I can think of several companies and groups that have been around a century or more, were successful for many years, but who failed to adapt, failed to be visionaries, failed to do the hard work for a good outcome, and now are only a memory. Think about Montgomery Ward, or Monkey Wards as my mom used to call it, a company started 30 years before ASA was even founded. Its claim to fame was that it offered products via mail order to customers in hard-to-reach places. Kind of the Amazon of its day, don't you think? Or Sears Roebuck, which is more than 100 years old and has been hanging on a thread for years. Oldsmobile made it to 106, and Woolworth 147 years. The U.S. Postal Service? Sure, it's still around, but would anyone argue that they've been dying a very slow death since the beginning of email? Are they adapting? What do all these entities have in common? Almost all of them operated with the mindset of, we've always done it this way, so why not continue? They failed to innovate, to adapt to changing circumstances, and to be resilient. On the other end of the spectrum, I've always admired ASA's ability to see the world changing and to adapt. And if you hadn't done that, you might have gone the same way as Monkey Wards and Oldsmobile. I bet many of you today, like I, frequently are thinking about what would my grandpa or my dad think if they could be here and they could see whatever circumstance it is that I happen to be experiencing. Similarly, wouldn't it be amazing to know what ASA's founders would think today about all of your accomplishments over the last 100 years? In their wildest dreams, could they have imagined the need to talk about sustainability or climate change? Or the desire of some consumers to understand where their food comes from? Could they have foreseen the need for a successful checkoff program? When the soybean folks gathered at the Fouts farm in 1920, do you think they thought about competing with anyone further away than the farmer in the next county, let alone worrying about competing with Brazil for our exports to China? Would they have imagined numerous overseas offices to help sell our products? The examples go on and on. Today we celebrate the members and leaders of the American Soybean Association and their efforts for the last 100 years. Your vision, your blood, sweat, and tears, and your ability to see when the wind wasn't blowing your way and to adjust your sails. Syngenta has been a proud partner, collaborator, and watched your success, and we look forward to standing next to you and watching you conquer those challenges for the next 100 years.
I'm Chuck Hammond, soybean farmer from Valley Falls, Kansas, and I want to take this moment to congratulate the American Soybean Association on 100 years of worthwhile service to the soybean grower and hope that we can continue another 100 years.
Hi, I'm David Erickson, soybean farmer from Altona, Illinois. Congratulations to the American Soybean Association for 100 years of leadership and advocacy for soybean farmers.
Hi, Steve Geik from John Deere. On behalf of John Deere, I would like to congratulate the American Soybean Association for promoting soybeans and increasing profit opportunities for those who grow them for more than the past 100 years. We applaud the ongoing efforts of ASA to support farmers when it comes to key issues such as trade, biodiesel, transportation, the Farm Bill, and sustainability. Like the American Soybean Association, John Deere has been a longtime supporter of farmers since we were founded 183 years ago. As John Deere and ASA work to help farmers address the rising demand for agriculture to feed and fuel the world, there is no doubt advances in technology will play a critical role. We continue to invest in innovative technology to help farmers more easily protect our natural resources and affirm their role as stewards of the land. These innovations can help farmers plant seeds and apply fertilizer and herbicide with pinpoint accuracy. Much of this new technology, along with using biodiesel-powered equipment, helps farmers to be more productive and profitable while maximizing the potential of every seed, every inch of soil, and every drop of water. In the future, our technology will help farmers take this even further. By adding cameras, artificial intelligence, and sensors, John Deere equipment will have the potential to help farmers manage all the way down to the plant level in real time to increase productivity, lower costs, and deliver more precision. I encourage ASA and soybean growers to continue working to make sure their voices are heard. Once again, congratulations to the American Soybean Association for 100 years of outstanding service to the American farmer, and look forward to the next 100 years.
My name is Brandon Whip. I'm a soybean farmer from East Central South Dakota. It's my pleasure to congratulate the American Soybean Association on 100 years of making a positive difference for the farmers of America. It's a time for celebration and for reflection on the many successes that we've had over the last 100 years. But more importantly, to look to the next 100 years and what we're going to be able to do together to feed this hungry world. Congratulations to the American Soybean Association.
We're gonna start about 12:20 now, but they wanted me to encourage you all that there is ice cream out there and that you should go get some. Thanks. Hey, thank you. You're welcome. So, can we have your attention, please? We'd like to start the program here as soon as I can find out where I'm supposed to be. So anyway, if I could have your attention, we're ready to start the program. And my name is Ray Gasser. I'm a soybean and corn farmer in Iowa. We grow a little cereal rye, too, for our cover crops. It's a privilege to be part of this program, and it's a privilege to be part of the American Soybean Association and be part of this team here. And really want to thank everyone for being here. And isn't it a wonderful day that we have today? So thank you, Indiana. So at this time, I'm pleased to introduce our MC. He's well known to many of you, having been seen and heard by millions of farmers and ranchers and consumers for nearly 30 years. As co-host and co-founder of the national farm television show, This Week in Agribusiness, Max Armstrong has been seen weekly on nearly 200 local television stations coast to coast. Some of his broadcasts are carried on RFD TV, and his Farming America syndicated radio reports are carried each Saturday morning on WGN Radio. He's currently Director of Broadcasting for Farm Progress Companies. Please join me in the warm welcome, Max Armstrong.
You know, it's a small world, and I think Ray and I just connected today realizing we grew up about 30 miles apart in southwestern Indiana. I'm from Gibson County originally, and Ray came from that area around Dale, and Ray's wife was from Gibson County down in that Hobstadt vicinity, so the Hoosier roots run pretty deep for us, as a matter of fact. Did anybody notice when the governor was speaking a while ago, I think every agriculture company in central Indiana had their trucks go by here. Did you notice that? Yeah. Hog Slats, Co-Alliance, and every one of those trucks had been washed. See, you saw it too, didn't you? I think they had them waiting out there staged somewhere just to bring them in. Doggone it, it's good to see smiles. Oh, I know you can eat a little while longer, keep those masks off just a little bit longer. I'll never take for granted again a smile or the ability to read lips. You know, some of us with that little bit of a tractor notch struggle. Although Mrs. Armstrong says I only struggle at home with that. What is there about that anyway? I was looking back and thinking about what was going on 100 years ago. And it really was a remarkable time when you think about what the nation was going through. As the governor mentioned a little bit earlier, Woodrow Wilson was president of the United States. We had just come out of the Great War, which they called it then, of course, World War I. So that was not too far in the rearview mirror. Women were just given the right to vote nationwide in 1920. The first commercial radio station went on the air, KDKA in Pittsburgh. How you like the way I said those call letters, you know? I almost sound like a broadcaster. KDKA, Pittsburgh. What else was going on? Well, lest we forget, the nation, not long before that, of course, had been hit by pandemic. So it might be a good thing for us to remember as we look back to that time that yes, there is life after pandemic, that we can recover from such a tremendous challenge as that being faced with the world today. One more thing that's kind of interesting to look at when you go back to that era and think what Taylor and Noah and Finus had done. I was going through some of the records on soybean yields, the USDA records year to year. I couldn't find anything for 1920, but in 1924, the nationwide soybean yield was 11. Now think about that a little bit. I think that was even higher than I expected, 11 bushels an acre. Where will we be this year? Well, we'll find out next week. The USDA on Wednesday of next week will come out with that first crop report of this year based on field surveys. I was looking at some of the expectations. I see StoneX is looking for a nationwide yield of 54.2. They think the Indiana yield will be 59. And I see they pegged the Illinois soybean yield at 68 bushels, which of course, as Bill and I were talking a few minutes ago at the table, means we're going to have to find a home for a lot of soybeans, to be sure. But what a privilege it is to be a part of the event here today. Let me stash my mask. Oh, no, I'll have to put it back on when I exit the podium here. But it's just such a treat to be a part of this group, recognizing how many leaders that we've had the chance to interview over the years, and to think back of all of those years of leadership and time away from the farm. And it's a thankless job at times. For those of you who have been involved in leadership, I tip my hat to you. Because for many of you to get on an airplane, it's a distance of maybe 100 miles or 200 miles or even farther to attend a meeting, and some of you have done it faithfully year after year after year. So in addition to recognizing the ASA and its accomplishments, I want to pay tribute to the leaders because you have been faithful. You've done so much to keep this organization not only alive, but to make it thrive. Ray, let me hand it back over to you. That's a good way to lead back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Max. So I hope you're all enjoying this day. You know, at Soyland, at Fouts Farm here at Soyland, you know, it's a great occasion. It's 100 years of agriculture, and it's 100 years of farmers serving farmers. It's 100 years of making a difference in all of our lives, and we really appreciate that and all your help to make this a great day. It was the same family here in 1920, and it's been a pleasure to serve on ASA on this anniversary committee for me. And a little over 2 years ago, the committee started planning on how we would celebrate the ASA's 100th anniversary. And I really want to take a moment to thank the chair, Charles Atkinson from Kansas. You know, he really deserves an applaud. Not only him, but the staff that was involved, and particularly Jill, who's running around here and making sure everyone's organized. And you know, she helped write our speeches. And you know, sometimes I don't take myself seriously, and I hope others don't take me seriously. But I want to say that part of this, my speech, is I did, and part Jill did. And if you don't like part of it, that's the part that Jill wrote. Okay, so thank you. So, and I'd like everyone, every member of the Fouts family to stand right now, and really we need to give them a hearty thank you and give them a round of applause, please. So please stand up. the ASA 100th Anniversary Committee and Indiana Soybeans, who really did a lot of work. Would you all stand up? It's the folks in the green shirts and the folks in the yellow shirts. So thank them too. So we have a few other people who have helped organize parts of today's celebration. Marshall Martin from Purdue University helped organize the farm machinery displays, and Reynolds Farm Equipment provided new machinery. Marshall, where are you at? I don't see him. Thank you. And the individuals who planted and cared for the heirloom soybean plots we're seeing here today are Dr. Sean Castile. There he is. Marshall Martin and the Jones family, who are part of the Fouts family, is anyone? I saw some of them here, so there they are. Thank you. Thanks for putting up with us, okay? You did great. So I had the honor to serving president of the American Soybean Association about 6 years ago. You know, and some of the previous speakers were talking about the honor and the privilege and the responsibility of being a leader at the American Soybean Association. And it wasn't work for us, you know, and it's not work for us. We do it because it means something to us, and we want to make a difference not only in our family and communities, but with all of your lives and with our industry. So appreciate the opportunity to be here. And it is, you know, a group of dedicated individuals that are part of the American Soybean Association. And they come from their state organizations. And they are brought up to the American Soybean Association. They're leaders at their state level, and they come to ASA. So really, you know, we really ought to be thankful for all their work. And you know, they are dedicated, but they do it because they're passionate about agriculture and they're passionate about our industry. So in 1920, it was just such a group of volunteers like us, you know, who came together right here, you know, to begin the American Soybean Association. And I just want to give a few little facts. In 1920, in this place, there were 300 or 400 farmers came to begin the American Soybean Association. And in the United States, we were growing about 1 million bushels of soybeans, 1 million. 100 years later, there's 300,000 or 400,000 farmers in the United States growing soybeans, and we produce about 4.5 billion bushels. That's a lot. You know, that's a big pile. And so we really, it's been quite an accomplishment, and you know, I just want to let you know where we've come. But I also want to thank those, you know, our state affiliates, and as mentioned, the United Soybean Board, the Soybean Checkoff, USEC, Jim. You know, thanks. You know, we're doing a lot of great work, and we're making a difference not only for us, but our industry and for people around the world. And we're feeding them. That's what we do. So thank you. Okay, so in organizing the event and implementing this event here in Camden, Indiana, ASA has had special support from the Indiana Soybean Alliance that I mentioned. Their staff worked hard to help ASA make this event great, and thank them for a successful celebration and reflect on the support. Let's thank them again. Indiana Soybean Alliance, thank you. I also want to take a moment to thank all of the sponsors at ASA's year-long 100th anniversary celebration. We have many sponsors who have helped make all of our anniversary events, activities, and communication efforts throughout the year possible. Their names are listed on the banner in the front and banners displayed around the grounds. We have today a U.S. and ASA industry partner and platinum level anniversary sponsor who we're going to hear a few comments from. Please welcome Corteva Agrisciences Executive Vice President, Chief Commercial Officer, Tim Glenn. Tim, come on.
All right, good afternoon. It is It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I've been looking forward to the celebration for a long time. So if you're like me, you might be kind of locked at home and working from home, and for most of the past 5 months, I've been spending my days staring at a computer screen and talking to it, and not having a lot of human contact. So it truly is a pleasure and an honor to be with you today. It feels good to be out with customers and to be out here with very important business partners. It's a great opportunity to reconnect with friends and colleagues after a challenging few months. It's a chance to talk about where we're at as an industry and where we've been and where we're going, more importantly. And it's always a pleasure to be on the farm, especially one of such historic importance, and to see that sign. Can't wait to take a picture of that and take it back to my wife so I can explain to her how I've spent my day today. It'll be pretty cool. But for the Fouts family to open their doors for us today, and especially neat to have one of our Corteva colleagues, Alicia Modisette-Kemp, here as a part of this is really tremendous. Today's been a special treat because we've had the opportunity to walk through the heirloom soybean plots, and if you spent any time there or have not yet, I definitely would recommend you do. And probably my biggest surprise after looking at a lot of soybeans in my life is those nearly 100-year-old varieties look pretty decent out in that field, better than I would have expected. So maybe it was the agronomy care that they received through the season, but very cool to see that, and also see some of the machinery that was utilized. But most importantly, it's really an amazing situation to see how far we've come as an industry in just a few generations. From wild traits and a relatively unheard of crop to high yielding varieties and a large selection of native traits for disease resistance and agronomics. We've got biotech traits for herbicide and insecticide tolerance that help protect yield. And we've also successfully changed the composition to improve the content of healthy oils and protein. We've come from being an experimental crop that was used to feed livestock to a staple row crop that helps replenish the soil and provides food, feed, oil, and fuel to billions of people around the world. Much of the progress is largely due to the American Soybean Association, the members, and the partners. We've been proud to work to help expand the market on products like Plenish high oleic soybean oil with no trans fats, less saturated fat, and the highest amount of healthy monosaturated fat available in soybeans. And we're proud to offer soybean farmers a new standard for weed control with the Enlist weed control system that combines traits, weed control, herbicide systems, and a strong stewardship element that we really need today. At Corteva Agriscience, our purpose is to enrich the lives of those who produce and those who consume for generations to come. And for decades, our heritage companies, Dow AgriSciences and DuPont Pioneer, have proudly supported the ASA. We applaud all that you've accomplished through forward-looking leaders. We appreciate the honor to support you and partner with you to continue to achieve new heights now and in the future. Congratulations for working with nearly all soybean farmers to personally reinvest in your industry via the checkoff and the leadership of the United Soybean Board. Congratulations for recognizing that American soybean farmers can serve global customers through your international programs that have resulted in the establishment of the U.S. Soybean Export Council. And congratulations for creating teams and committees such as the ASA Biotech Working Group, which has created a new level of communications, commitment, and partnership between stakeholders for a much stronger, more secure soybean industry now and in the future. And finally, thank you for establishing a strong tradition of leadership through the ASA Corteva Agriscience Young Leaders Program, which is now beginning its 37th year. Corteva is proud to work with you. Congratulations on your achievements in your 100th anniversary, and we look forward to working together for the next century in supporting American soybean farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We appreciate it, and we appreciate Corteva's role. I couldn't help but think we were talking over lunch today about the late Owen Newland, who just passed away a few days ago. And some of you perhaps knew Owen. He was a tireless supporter of the farmer and a huge supporter of the Grains Council, and many of us had the chance to learn from him. One other name I have to invoke while I have the podium is that of Tom Fouts. Who here is related to Tom? Are you Connie? Ah, Tom was Captain Stubby back in the day, legendary band leader, radio broadcaster, television broadcaster, columnist who was read in Prairie Farmer magazine, humorist. That probably should be at the top of the list. Captain Stubby. He was heard on radio, you've seen on television. And the neat thing about Tom is he made us laugh. You couldn't sit there while he was at the podium and not laugh. And he gave us a great heritage because of that. So I wanted to be sure and mention Captain Stubby, who, if I recall correctly, he died at the age of 85 in 2004. So he would have been 1 year old, I think, when this event was held here. If I did my math correctly, and I'm a Purdue grad, I can do that. Dean, make note of that, Dean. There are several Purdue grads in the crowd here, by all means, enough that I could get in trouble if I don't shut up. Dave Rodabaugh is a guy that I've known a long time from Rensselaer, Jasper County. Dave, come on up as the chair of the Indiana Soybean Alliance.
Thanks, Max. I was going to reveal that you were a Southern Indiana boy and a Purdue Boilermaker, but you took half of that introduction. But my favorite farm broadcaster, anyway, that still sticks. What an amazing sight it must have been, that Corn Belt Soybean Field Day. 1,000 farmers from 6 states, elbow to elbow. That was for the governor, but the governor's gone, so I'll tell it anyway. Showed up for lunch at this very farmstead, hosted by the Fouts brothers, Purdue, USDA, and some others, I expect. That day, the National Soybean Growers Association was born of a vision to bring the versatile qualities of soy to consumers and to open new profit opportunities for American farmers. With the slight name change and successful political activity in 1928, the American Soybean Association was totally engaged in the policy arena. More recently, to bolster marketing efforts, ASA leaders were able to establish a national checkoff in the 1990 Farm Bill. As a farmer and chairman of the Indiana Soybean Alliance, I am privileged to be a part of checkoff-funded efforts which connect with consumers, enhance demand, improve product performance and production practices, open export markets, and other significant initiatives. Not far from here, Purdue continues to be a valuable research partner. Our joint New Uses student competition celebrated its 25th year last year. Well, 2020 has brought innovative communication tools to advocacy efforts with ISA and all levels of government. Together, we will persevere as we continue to navigate rough waters in the form of trade issues, livestock diseases abroad, and demand-altering pandemic. The Indiana Soybean Alliance is pleased to join with many partners to host this celebration. And as I close, I would encourage you to read the American Soybean Magazine ASA Celebrates issue this summer. I guarantee you will be inspired by the individual sacrifice and collective effort throughout these years of farming since this celebration started. I will close my comments with one last recognition. Because of earliest contributions to the American Soybean Association, I'm pleased to announce that the Fouts family members will receive honorary membership, lifetime membership in the ASA and Indiana Soybean Alliance. Please give them your applause and your thanks one more time.
Thank you, Dave. We appreciate it. I was reminded as you were standing up here of the many folks in this crowd who've played a role in ag leadership through the years, and I see your wife, Danita, is here, who, of course, has been involved in ag leadership. Randy Crone back there, Farm Bureau President. Wave so folks can see you. I know it's a lot of organizations pulling together in this state to make things happen and to get things done. One of the organizations here on day one, 100 years ago, was Purdue University. The experiment station of the university played a role, so it's only appropriate that today we welcome up to the stage Dean Karen Plout from the College of Agriculture at Purdue. Dean?
Thank you, Max. I was debating whether I needed to keep my mask on because all our faculty are supposed to keep a mask on while teaching students. But since we're in the outside, I'm going to say it's allowed to take my mask off. So I will do that. I think one of the interesting things that I thought about only while I got here, 1,000 people came here. There was no GPS. There was no social media. Just think of the partnerships that they must have had to bring 1,000 people here without any of the tools that we have today. It's really a fantastic statement of what they were like, the ingenuity, the spirit of working together that they had back then. So I want to congratulate ASA on keeping this together for 100 years, supporting the U.S. soybean farmers through our new tools. I have to admit, if I was invited 100 years ago and tried to get here without a GPS, I'd still be out driving around. But luckily, Professor G.I. Christie, who is the director of the Ag Experiment Station, and A.T. Wianco, who is head of Purdue Agronomy, figured out how to get here and spoke on September 3rd, 1920, when the Soybean Association was established. One of the interesting things to note, I read the little poster over there about the 1,000 people. Each person was only given 3 minutes in order to get enough people a chance to talk. And the note says they were actually told to shut up after those 3 minutes. So I will be careful and try to talk quickly to obey that rule. As was mentioned, Taylor Fouts, the youngest son, attended Purdue, and he's really the one that came and planted those soybeans and talked to brothers and neighbors about growing it. And as Alicia mentioned, people said, oh, he's got those high-toned college ideas. But as a result of those ideas, the soybean seed industry was born and expanded through Indiana and throughout the United States. And we're really proud to say that Purdue University was there from the very beginning. Since that time, many members of the Fouts family have attended Purdue. Several are here today, several of the Boilermakers. And one of them, Claire Crum, just completed her master's degree at Purdue in the spring of 2020. And is Claire here today? Right here. Well, let's give Claire a round of applause. Fantastic to see that kind of legacy. Joining me here today from the Purdue College of Agriculture is my colleague Bernie Engel over here, if you can stand, Bernie. He's the Associate Dean of Ag Research and Grad Education and also the Director of the Ag Experiment Station. Marshall Martin, who helped to make this day possible. Marshall, if you want to stand. There he is. And, of course, Sean Castile, who helped build all the plots out here and is our soybean extension specialist. Really want to thank them for being here, and I hope 100 years from now they talk about the presence of Purdue University and another 100 years that we've supported your business. As we look forward, we've worked together to contribute to the growth of the soybean industry. As Dave just mentioned, with the support of the Indiana Soybean Alliance and the Corn Marketing Council, Purdue was able to build the Indiana Corn and Soy Innovation Center. It's a state-of-the-art phenotyping center where we develop tools to understand how management practices and environments impact soybeans. Indiana soybean leaders have also been leaders when it comes to finding new uses for soybeans. As Dave mentioned, 25 years of that relationship, and engaging students really across campus to become the next generation of entrepreneurs. That's through the Soybean Student Innovation Competition, as well as working with the researchers in Extension and their graduate students to create your next generation of farmers. We also have the Endowed Soybean Utilization Chair, which is filled by Dr. Nate Mosier, who's now head of Ag and Biological Engineering. And these are just a few examples of some of the partnerships that we have. We really appreciate the opportunity to partner with the American Soybean Association and the Indiana Soybean Alliance as we look to develop and promote the next generation of soybeans, as well as soybean leaders in Indiana, the United States, and globally. Thanks very much and congratulations.
Thanks, Dean Plout. And I think if you get any static from the president's office about the mask, we'll have several people vouching for you here. It wasn't education, it was inspiration that you imparted to this bunch. Speaking of inspiration, I want to introduce our keynote speaker, who probably has as much as anybody else under this tent knowledge of the association and how it works. Steve Sinskey served in both the Reagan and George H.W. Bush administrations at the U.S. Department of Agriculture and eventually became administrator of the Foreign Agricultural Service of the USDA. Steve indeed has great knowledge of this association, having served as its chief executive officer for 21 years, was executive director of the ASA International Marketing for 2 years prior to becoming the CEO, and for the last 3 years, Steve has been a part of the team at the U.S. Department of Agriculture representing our producers and our consumers as the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture. Please welcome Secretary Sinskey.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And it is just absolutely wonderful to be back home with you. I say home because it's great to be with my soy family again. And it's wonderful to see all of you. It's wonderful to be part of this event. And how wonderful is it to be that we're here on the farm where it all started 100 years ago. So again, thank you very much to the Fouts family for all that you do. As Max said, I had the great honor, I would say, of serving, of working at ASA for almost a quarter of ASA's 100 years, and what an experience it was. I had the opportunity during that time to work with many of you in this tent here today, working with young leaders in the Young Leader Program or the Leadership College, working as they begin their journey throughout their leadership career, working with rank and file members at first Soybean Expo and then at Commodity Classic. And then, of course, working with ASA, USB, State Association, and State Council, State Checkoff Council board members throughout that time as well. One of the things that I think we're very fortunate to have is both a strong checkoff to do the research and promotion, as well as the association to do the policy work. We in the soybean industry, I think, are very fortunate in that regard, and that's doing the work, and that has really allowed us to prosper as we have for the industry. I will tell you that USDA is very proud to be a partner as well. USDA was part of this field day that was held here, this conference that was here 100 years ago, and USDA, I can tell you, is very much pleased to be a partner, continuing to be a partner with you. Of course, we've been a partner through the years on whether it's on the research program, or it's been a partner working on farm bills, on conservation. We're pleased to have our director of the Indiana Farm Service Administration here today, as well as NRCS that are here, and want to thank them for being here today. But also, of course, ASA was partnering with USDA ASA was one of the first foreign market development cooperators working to develop markets overseas back in 1956. And after that was responsible for opening up one of the first offices around the globe. Of course, that was in Japan for U.S. soybeans, and then working to develop a network of offices around the globe. And of course, today, working through both the American Soybean Association WISH program, but as well as with the U.S. Soybean Export Council, and in league with our state associations, our state checkoffs, and the United Soybean Board and USDA to develop those markets overseas. I thought I would touch on a few things today. Certainly we know that 2019 and 2020 have been very challenging years for agriculture, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that. I have a bit of perspective, of course, coming from both the soybean industry and then working at USDA, and so it's great to see how the two families have come together. I know many times when you see someone from the government come to speak, you're always a little bit skeptical about someone from the government these days. And it reminds me of the story about there was the farmer here in Indiana that was visited by the state's wage and hour inspector. He was coming out and he wanted to talk to the farmer, and he said, well, I'd like to talk to your employees. Tell me who they are. And he said, well, I have Bill. Bill's been with me about 10 years. I pay him about $600 a week, room and board. I also have Richard. He helps, and he does a lot of work with the livestock. You pay him $650 a week, free room and board. And then there's that dimwit that I know that we have here too. He does about 90% of the work around here. He has to pay for his own room and board, but I bought him a scotch every Saturday night. And the wage and hour inspector said, yes, that's the man I want to talk to. And the farmer said, well, you're looking at him. That'd be me. So certainly we know that the farmers are the ones that are the hard workers and the ones that contribute to get things done. Want to say a few words on, of course, the COVID situation, and we've all remarked about that with the masks that we have on today and the social distancing and everything else. And we know that it has certainly disrupted our markets for not only soybean farmers, but for farmers, for the livestock industry, the dairy industry, and others across the country. We have been working tirelessly at USDA to try to help mitigate the impacts that the COVID-19 has had on producers, as we've seen our food service and our restaurant industry shut down. We've been working tirelessly to make sure that we can feed the school children and setting up and allowing the flexibility so schools can try to feed children, of delivering meals to school children out in the countryside. We've been also working, of course, to keep the supply chains going, work to try to keep the meat packing plants going. For a time, they dipped down close to around almost 50% slowdown. And today, I'm pleased to say that we are back up basically to full speed again there. We've been working as well to make sure that farmers have the kinds of assistance that they need to try to weather through this storm. And that was one of the things, of course, one of the first elements of that is the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program, $16 billion that you are familiar with that has been announced and that we're in the process. Sign up is still going on through August 28th. And certainly we hope that we want this to provide the assistance across the board to try to help producers weather this storm. We have another $14 billion that Congress provided to the Commodity Credit Corporation that we're taking a look at to see how do we utilize that. And then, of course, as you know, Congress is working right now to see if they can pass another assistance program for the American people. Included in that package right now is, in the Senate side, as they're working on that, is around $20 billion of additional assistance for agriculture. We've also been working to try to make sure that we get food to families who need that. Not only is that, of course, an increase We've had a 40% increase in the minimum SNAP or food stamp benefits. We've also been working to deliver the food boxes. You've heard about the Farmers to Families food boxes, packages of produce, meat, or dairy that have been delivered to families around the country, working where we have suppliers taking the produce and the goods from farmers and delivering it through food banks, charities, and other organizations. As of this morning, we have delivered over 52 million boxes of food going to those that need that. And we have this program right now where we have bids open and solicitations open to keep this program going through October. I want to talk a minute too. Of course, we all know that it has been a rough time on the trade front. And we've talked a little bit about foreign markets and foreign market development. Certainly China has been at the forefront, and nobody knows that better than the soybean industry and the impacts that that has had of working as the United States has been engaging with China to try to bring them to the table to make sure that they're honoring intellectual property, that they're not stealing our trade secrets, that businesses that want to do business in China don't have to take on a Chinese joint venture partner and then quickly have them steal their technology and put them out of business. I'm pleased to say, of course, it was in January that we reached an agreement, phase one, with China, and that has addressed a number of long-standing market access barriers that we faced in China. Some of those market access barriers, whether they were affecting our beef industry, our pork industry, our poultry industry, or biotechnology overall, had been going on for years, some of them even decades. And China agreed to address those, and I'm pleased to say that has taken action to live up to the commitments that they've made under that agreement. A big part of that agreement as well, as you know, was purchase commitments. China has agreed to purchase $36.5 billion in calendar year 20. And a big part of that, of course, has to be soybeans. We're monitoring that closely. We're urging China that they need to step up their purchases. You've seen that they have made some significant purchases of both soy, corn, other commodities. They've been purchasing beef, poultry, pork, but we think that they can do better, that they are going to have to step it up, and we are reminding the Chinese that they have to continue to do better to live up to that commitment. Despite COVID, I'm pleased to say that we are seeing that the Chinese are saying that they are going to live up to that commitment and continue purchasing, and certainly we're going to continue to urge them to do so. Also on the trade front, here we are early in August, but of course it was just on July 1st that the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement went into force, the new NAFTA agreement, the revised NAFTA agreement. And you know that that has been a big benefit. We have seen our exports grow to both Canada and Mexico previously. For us in agriculture, we were big winners from the previous NAFTA agreement. And the USMCA does make some important changes, particularly with regard to Canada, about stopping their discriminatory practices on U.S. wheat, of addressing their discriminatory practices on dairy, and making some other modernizations to that agreement. But the big winner, I think, also was, of course, the American worker. Under the terms of the NAFTA revised, particularly the auto provisions that put the U.S. and Mexico on a much more level field, and is going to stimulate employment in the auto industry. On January of this year, kicking off the beginning of the year, of course, was the U.S.-Japan Free Trade Agreement that kicked in. And again, that was a big win for producers as well. I know we in agriculture, a number of us were strong supporters of the Trans-Pacific Partnership negotiations that had continued on for a number of years. Japan was always the crown jewel of that. That's where most of the benefits were going to accrue to U.S. agriculture, was from freer trade with Japan. And under the agreement that we've struck with Japan, we do have that, where over 90% of our agriculture exports will be going to Japan, either duty-free or at preferential tariff rates. It'll allow us to compete with many of our competitors. For the soybean industry, of course, we already had very favorable terms going into Japan, but it was particularly important for our livestock customers to put them on a level playing field so that they could compete. Of course, as we're here celebrating, of course, looking back at the past, it's also appropriate to look out into the future. We in agriculture, as you know, are facing a couple of very big challenges. One of them is, of course, to feed a growing world population. Today, we have 7.6 billion people. We're going to be going to 8.6 billion people by 2030 in the next decade, and then almost to 10 billion people by 2050. The challenge is, how are we going to feed those people while also having rising incomes, while at the same time doing well by the environment and addressing the other big challenge that we face is how do we address a changing climate? We believe, and I'm proud at USDA, we rolled out at the end of February at our annual Outlook conference, our Ag Innovation Agenda. And that where we have set the goal to increase U.S. agriculture productivity by 40% by 2050 while cutting the environmental footprint in half. And how are we going to do that? One of the biggest ways, of course, is welcoming technology. It is through innovation and technology that we're going to be able to continue to have the tools to increase per unit farmer and farm productivity while at the same time cutting back on the environmental footprint. We think it can be done. Many times agriculture is viewed as part of the problem. We think that agriculture is the solution that can solve those twin challenges of both a hungry world and a changing climate. We're here today to celebrate, of course, the last 100 years. And as we look at the next 100 years, there's going to be a lot of changes, and we're going to have to welcome those new technologies, those new innovations. ASA has changed a lot over the last 100 years as well, and that's something that I think we have to celebrate today. It was mentioned earlier, your ASA magazine, the anniversary edition that just arrived. I was looking through that, and I was really inspired by some of the words of course, the history, but also some of the words of the former presidents, many of them that are here in this room with us today. There was one I want to call out for you and end with, and that was from our former president, Tony Anderson from Ohio. He said, ASA isn't relevant because it's 100. It's 100 because it is relevant. Congratulations to you. Thanks for all that you have done to make it so.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it so much. And as I said, to have someone here of Steve's stature who can reflect back on the rich history of the association makes the event so special. I would be remiss. Who is under the tent here yet from Carroll County? Back here, we still have several folks. Oh, and the historian is here. Yes. We haven't talked about Claude Wickard. Carroll County, Indiana, gave the United States a Secretary of Agriculture. What's that? Oh, okay. Oh, my goodness. How do you do? I didn't know that. 1940 to 1945, serving Presidents FDR and Truman. What I remember, now I don't know, you may have to legitimize this story, but the story that was told over the years was that Secretary Wickard was somewhere out in Indiana delivering a speech. And Steve, this may hit close to home for you. He was carefully reading the speech that had been crafted by the Department of Agriculture speech writers. Every word was there just the way it should be. Claude gets down to about the third paragraph and he said, "Oh, hell, I don't believe that myself." That's the story that was told about it. Now I'm going to find out if it was true or not. We're going to continue our celebration with a video momentarily, but first we're going to be hearing from two Fouts family members, Mara Hendress and Claire Crum. Come on up.
What a wonderful day this has been for us. Hello, my name is Mara Hendress, and I'm the granddaughter of Taylor Fouts. Along with my brother Daryl, you want to raise your hand down there? Our spouses and the Finest and Noah families, we offer our gratitude to the American Soybean Association for choosing to have your centennial celebration where it all started, here at Soyland. Grandpa died when I was 1, and my brother was 4, so obviously I didn't know Grandpa, but Daryl remembers being in the shop with him and the bringing in of lambs. I have learned through other people that Grandpa had a quick smile, never cussed, but said rats, 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 loved to play the violin and sing in the church choir, was always thinking, inventing, reading a lot, and pursuing the future of soybeans as a crop. In 1902, after graduating from Purdue with a BS in agriculture, he continued trying to raise soybeans that his dad, Solomon, had received from the USDA. By 1907, he finally had 200 bushels of seed beans, which I'm told was like gold back then. In 1908, his 2 older brothers, Finest and Noah, joined him in the soybean business. Each raised soybeans on their individual farms, but marketed their beans together. These 3 brothers went through a lot of trial and error. There were a lot of failures in the beginning to come up with best practices for raising soybeans and their future potential. Together, they persevered to help the soybean industry evolve into what it is today. History and time have changed a lot of things here at Soyland Farm. When you drove in, you probably expected to see that white Soyland barn in the original homestead of Solomon Fouts, seen in the 1920 pictures with the 1,000 people in attendance. The Soyland barn was raised and was located where the flower garden is now, right over there. We put a sign that said that. The original home that Grandpa inherited from Solomon, burnt in 1929. Grandpa and a hired man built the present-day house that you see now in 1930. By the old front door facing east, you can see the stones and the bricks, T&F for Taylor Fouts. My husband and I lived in this home for 42 years, which my husband is Jerry, yeah. And now my brother and his wife live there. The other bigger white barn with the wonderful hay mows and swings and the grain scales and all that stuff that we had a blast when I was a little kid, sat where this present metal barn is today. That barn burnt in 1976. My dad, Leo Bowman, farmed with Grandpa many years, and then my husband, Jerry, farmed with my dad. The land is now rented to our son-in-law and his family, Jones Family Farms. So even though time has changed the look of this farm, it cannot diminish the innovative spirits of 3 pioneers who were passionate about exploring soybeans. The Fouts family celebrate their innovative spirits with you today. In conclusion, we want to thank Governor Holcomb, the ASA, and whoever gave us the state marker. I want to thank my brother, his wife, Diane. Diane, raise your hand down there. That lady has worked her little tail off keeping flowers alive. Her grandchildren for helping us out too, and my husband for a lot of hard work getting the farm ready for this event. I think Grandpa would be proud. I'd like to introduce Claire Crum from the Finest family.
Well, that part's not mine, but that's okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here again today with us. We appreciate you all coming out. My name is Claire Crum. I am Finest Fouts' great-great-granddaughter. I am the 6th generation of the Fouts family to live and farm. on the Fouts family farms. There it is. I could try and do it by memory, but I'm not going to waste your time. All right, so growing up in the Fouts family certainly left me with a huge sense of pride. I'm proud to be part of a farming family, especially one with such rich roots in the history of American agriculture. I'm proud to be a Boilermaker, and I've been a part of the College of Ag at Purdue, and while I was there, I often pictured what Taylor Fouts looked like while he was walking around on campus, and how he spent his time thinking about those unique little beans. More than anything, I'm proud to be an agriculturalist in an age when agriculture is doing more than anyone could have ever imagined. This entire day is meant to recognize and honor the innovative ideas that the Fouts brothers shared 100 years ago. Without those ideas, who knows what soybean farming in America might look like today? Because 100 years ago, I'm sure my great-great-grandpa and my uncles could only have dreamed that the soybean industry would be what it is today. Soybeans today are used in countless products, from our food to our livestock's feed, to clothes and our cars and our fuel. Soybeans have become irreplaceable, and as proud as I am to have ties to the farmers who helped make it possible, I'm even more proud that I can have a hand in the future of soybean farming. The Fouts family is not just a family that were farmers. We still are farmers. And with the ASA and Purdue working with farming families like mine, who knows what the next 100 years of soybean farming can bring. So please turn your attention to the video screen to learn more about the Fouts family and the American Soybean Association. Thank you.
Established 100 years ago, the American Soybean Association has represented growers in 30 states on domestic and international policy issues. These trade and regulatory concerns impact more than 300,000 soybean farmers represented by the American Soybean Association. As the ASA continually works to keep abreast these industry-impacting issues, their focus is on protecting the future of U.S. soybean producers. Understanding the outlook for soy products also requires us to understand the need from which the association was born. The story starts with three brothers who were the driving force in the creation of the American Soybean Association. In 1896, Hoosier farmer Solomon Fouts of Carroll County, Indiana, received 2 varieties of soybean seeds from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Solomon and his 3 sons, Taylor, Finus, and Noah, planted the beans on their farm near the community of Deer Creek.
Solomon was given soybeans back in the 1800s by the government, and he was, trying them out. It took a lot of trials to get something to grow. The soil needs to be inoculated. You need bacteria in the soil to grow the soybeans. It took 20 years or so. It took a long time.
Fouts did not find early success in soybeans, but he and his family saw promise in the crop and were determined to make it work. Solomon's youngest son, Taylor, graduated from the School of Agriculture at Purdue University in 1902. He took what he learned at the prestigious institution and put it into practice at home on the family's acreage. He dedicated his efforts towards making soybeans a profitable crop for the farms of the Corn Belt. Taylor set about collecting seeds from all varieties of soybeans he could get his hands on. At planting time, he was ready to start experimenting and learning from the results.
Taylor graduates in '02 from Purdue. While at Purdue, he falls in with some professors that are interested in this new protein source, soybean. Well, that is Taylor's wheelhouse because his dad, Solomon, was on the leading edge. Some reports are he was the first soybean farmer in Carroll County. Purdue is getting more active with soybeans. In 1904, he joins a study that Purdue is sponsoring. 2004, Taylor gets his first seeds. It is a flop. It's not working for anybody in the study. And so Taylor goes into 2005, another flop, along with the other participants. 2006, another flop. They're just barely getting enough seed to replant the next year. Some of the participants begin to drop out. Taylor approaches the 2 brothers, and Finus and Noah join him.
Finus and Noah Fouts joined their brother Taylor in 1908 by planting their first fields of soybeans. They, along with every other farmer in the study who was attempting to grow a decent crop of soybeans, failed to yield good results. With their resolve strengthened, the Fouts were all planting fields with soybeans again the following year.
In '09, though, Finest gets the first successful plot. The next year, the brothers have successful crops. And again, up to this point, nobody's had success growing soybeans on a scale that they could market. So Finest gets the first plot. Noah and Taylor replicate the next year. Then we have the first little field day of just some local Carroll County and Cass County and maybe Howard County, but that first field day comes out of that.
After the success of Finest's soybean crop in 1909 and the promising crops of 1910, the Fouts host the first soybean day in September of 1910 at their farms in Deer Creek.
Because Taylor and Finest and Noah were having to answer so many questions of farmers, I think they thought it was a good idea to have a field day where lots of questions could be answered all at once and so forth. And that's how it started.
They wanted to promote soybeans and try to get the farmers together and share ideas. You know, there's a lot of trial and error that went into it. So I think that's why they did it, so other people wouldn't have to go through some of the things that they had gone through, and they were trying to come up with best practices for soybeans.
The Fouts brothers were recognized as bona fide experts in local soybean farming. With a few successful seasons under their belt and several healthy head of assorted livestock that grazed on the crop, they suddenly discovered a new challenge. Others wanted to grow this crop on their farms, but there was no efficient machinery to harvest the soybeans and offer the seeds for sale. Without available equipment, the Fouts had to become innovators and create their own. They were challenged to adapt what they had to new uses.
They were so innovative, this whole group of guys. They had to develop better machinery, better techniques to plant and to harvest, and things were not being able to be purchased on the market. They had to come up with the ideas. They had to make them. They had to take pieces of metal and pound it out and make brackets and make pieces to adapt to the equipment that they had or that they found to utilize in their operation.
The Fouts continued growing soybeans and improving their yields. Each year's experimentation allowed them to improve the next year's crop. In 1915, Taylor wrote an article about soybeans for the Purdue Agriculturist. In Soybeans, a Coming Crop, Taylor explained the benefits of planting corn and soybeans together. He'd written an earlier piece in 1909 for the same publication about the opportunities farming presented to those who were trained in the science of growing things.
Grandpa raised sheep. It was a big thing. Every fall he'd get so many sheep in. He's trying to find another crop to help him maintain the feed quality for the sheep. I remember trucks coming in here, be 2 or 3 semis coming from west and bring lambs into us, and he'd raise them and feed them soybeans or corn, to make them ration.
Demand for soybean seed increased as more area farmers saw the value of the crop offered. The Fouts brothers decided that time was ripe to host another seed day. In the fall of 1916, they again opened their fields to the public for the second seed day on their farms near Deer Creek.
The brothers probably went into this to create a market because, the neighbors saw the potential, and then that kind of spread the news, and then I think they started asking for the soybean seed.
Trying to get the word out, and they were just trying to get just local guys to be involved and to grow and to convince them to grow because it was such a new crop.
They had to do that. They really had to persevere and develop the product and then, take it out and promote it. And that's what they did. People didn't even know what a soybean was or what it was used for in most cases until they had some of the soybean days. And I would say it was not very common at all to grow soybeans prior to these field days because they didn't know, number one, what the product was, what they could use it for, and how it would fit their farming operation.
In 1918, they harvested another good crop of soybeans and then adopted the name Soyland for their farms. Due to the demand and shortages caused by World War I, the price per bushel of soybeans doubled between the years of 1916 and 1918. The three brothers joined forces and, in combining their harvests, collected enough seed to start the Soyland Seed Company. This proved to be a good move. By the end of 1919, soybeans were bringing between $6 and $10 a bushel. That's about $90 to $150 in today's money. Soon, farmers from out of state were trekking to Soyland to see the Fouts fields. There was a fascination with the beans and the profits they could generate. Soon, the Fouts brothers coordinated with other growers to host a national field day. They created an event called the Corn Belt Soybean Conference and held it on September 3rd of 1920.
Grandpa and the two brothers had everything all set up. They had planted acres. I think there was 200 acres planted of soybeans between 3 farms. Right. And so the people that day traveled between farms looking at different varieties. So from that, I think a lot of the farmers that came from out of state, Wisconsin and whatever, learned best practices to use in their states. And then also Grandpa had created a harvesting machine at that 1920 meeting. And so that was on display to see, and that was the forerunner of the combine, actually.
The farmers that attended that soy day in September, they realized how large the Fouts brothers' animals were, the hogs, the size of the hogs. They were pretty healthy because they were eating the soybean forage, the hay. Not so much the beans. The beans were still green on the plant at the time.
An estimated 1,000 farmers came from all around the Midwest to Carroll County, Indiana, to attend the event at Soyland Farms. From this meetup, the National Soybean Growers Association was formed. Later, this group was renamed the American Soybean Association. Taylor Fouts was the first man elected to the office of president of the new Association of Growers. The Fouts brothers played a key role in the soybean industry we see today. Their pioneering spirit and dogged dedication to make soybeans a top crop has a worldwide impact.
Soybeans have really been everything for my family. Finus, Noah, and Taylor actually planted the first successful yields of soybeans in the United States and became seed farmers very successfully. They were able to help found the American Soybean Association. I'm so proud of my family history. It's really been a defining feature in my life. It's helped me choose a career path. It's given me such a sense of pride in agriculture, in this country, in my family alone. And it's great to get some recognition because I've grown up on these stories of what Noah and Finus and Taylor did. And I think it's so important. I mean, they started the Soybean Association and they really just pioneered this crop that is so important today. So I love that their innovation and their vision is being recognized for how important it really is.
Soybeans is a wonderful crop, has great potential. They're still discovering uses of soybean. And so that legacy goes on, and it means a lot that somebody from the family were the first ones in Indiana to raise and produce soybeans and become such a wonderful crop. They had this vision that they obviously carried out with a passion throughout their life. I think that their vision probably wasn't as great as what it really is today, so they would be tremendously honored.
Congratulations to the American Soybean Association for 100 years of dedicated service to the American soybean farmer.
And thanks to the Indiana Soybean Alliance for the production of that excellent video to really give us the historical perspective. Now, I've been promised that there's a song. Oh, no, I'm not going to sing. Ray, come up and give us a little background on the song.
So, the theme today, and just like it was in 1920, is, when we work together, we all benefit. I think we heard that a lot And so that's kind of the message that Taylor Fouts wanted to share, you know, as everyone was leaving, because there was a lot of serious discussion about production and supplies and everything that's going on in our industry. And he wanted to have people leave and have a little fun while they were at it. So he wrote a soybean-themed lyrics to a song called Kindling Wood, which was a popular tune at the time. So Taylor and 3 of his fellow farmers sang the 4-part harmony song, which he titled Growing Soybeans to Get Along, and it was a big hit. So our anniversary team decided that, you know, we should recreate that. And so we have 4 soybean farmers from around the country singing a song, and Bob Worth is here somewhere, I think. He's one of them. Bob, there you are. There you are in the back. So anyway, I think we'll have a little fun and hear a really cool tune as we get ready to leave and leave on a high note. So let's roll that beautiful soybean song footage.
The American Soybean Association was formed on September 3, 1920, when brothers Taylor Finus and Noah Fouts hosted about 1,000 farmers at their Soyland farms in Camden, Indiana, to discover more about a promising new crop, soybeans. As part of the event, Taylor Fouts wrote new lyrics to the tune Kindling Wood, a popular song of the time. Taylor's version, entitled Growing Soybeans to Get Along, was performed by a quartet of Taylor and 3 fellow farmers that day to promote soybeans as a viable crop. In celebration of the 100th anniversary of the American Soybean Association, 4 ASA farmer members collaborated remotely to perform Growing Soybeans to Get Along.
Oh, my name is Soybean, and it's a good name, don't you see? And we're growing soybeans to get along. They are good for lambs and piggies and for all you folks and me. So we're growing soybeans to get along.
Soybeans,
oh soybeans,
soybeans,
oh soybeans, we are growing soybeans to get along.
Soybeans,
oh soybeans,
soybeans,
oh soybeans, we are growing soybeans to get along. For the lands they grow more soybeans in this corn belt, don't you see? 'Twill make fat pocketbooks and credits long. But if you've got no money, we'll let you have them free, so you'll grow soybeans to get along.
soybeans,
oh soybeans,
soybeans,
oh soybeans, we are growing soybeans to get along.
soybeans,
oh soybeans,
soybeans,
oh soybeans, we are growing soybeans to get along.
soybeans,
oh soybeans,
soybeans,
oh soybeans, we are growing soybeans to get along.
soybeans,
oh soybeans,
soybeans,
oh soybeans, we are growing soybeans to get along.
Hey, that was pretty awesome, wasn't it? Now, you do know, don't you, that that song is going to be dancing in your mind the rest of today and tonight. You're going to be singing it. Yeah. Oh, how neat that was. Bob, you've got a future there, I think. You want to cut a record. We may hear from that bunch again sometime, huh? I just want to wrap up with a few housekeeping things here before we leave today. There's plenty of ice cream, I'm told. And so you can go and enjoy some ice cream if you haven't been there to partake yet. You might want to take photos out with a new historical marker. In fact, I want to ask that all past and current board members of the American Soybean Association, as well as the Indiana bunch, to assemble yourself out with a sign. They want to get a photo before you leave today. Right out there by the historical marker, or maybe you want to go out to the heirloom soybean plots, check out some of the machinery there. Thanks to Marshall Martin for bringing all of that together. I wound up on a bus with Marshall one time in South America. For days. Dean, I should be able to get some kind of an advanced degree for that. I'm telling you. And if you haven't already done so, don't forget to pick up a free copy of the commemorative ASA history book available in the barn. And as you're leaving today at the registration tent where you checked in this morning, you can pick up a 100th anniversary poster with a montage of photos submitted by ASA members to help commemorate today's celebration. And as we did at lunch, we're going to dismiss tables in an orderly and safe manner by announcing numbers. But before I let you go, I want to leave some thoughts with you from the Fouts brothers. Connie Livingston was so kind, Captain Stubby's daughter was so kind to share with me this brochure from the Fouts brothers farm, Soyland Seeds. But if you read down through there, you really get a feel for the ethic, the enthusiasm, the faith of the Fouts brothers. Let me just share with you some of the tidbits. It was under the category of thoughts. Now, they've got all of the information about the seeds and the shipping and their philosophy of growing, but there are these thoughts. A man makes his hand efficient with his mind. Plant the seed of fear, and you reap a crop of failures. When a wise man sees an opportunity, he seizes it. The rut is really a small-sized grave. Success is expensive, lots of brains and labor, the Fouts brothers wanted you to know. Trifles make perfection, but perfection is no trifle. And there was this one buried right in the middle of a paragraph, but really when you zero in on it, it stands out. It said, failures are our stepping stones. We want our customers to profit from our failures as well as our success. Thank you for all of you being here today. What a wonderful celebration it has been. Congratulations to the American Soybean Association and its leadership. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for the ASA's 100th anniversary celebration and historical marker dedication. Brought to you by these platinum sponsors. These gold sponsors. These silver sponsors. These bronze sponsors. And our soy friends. This has been a Walton Webcasting production.